A Man of Letters, from Miss Bracegirdle and Others, by Stacy Aumonier. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Michael Maggs. A Man of Letters. Alfred Codling to Annie Phelps. My dear Annie, I got into an awful funny mood lately. You'll think I'm balmy. Comes over me like late in the evening when it's getting dusky. It started, I think, when I was in Egypt. Nearly all of us chaps who was out there felt it a bit, I think. When you was on sentry go in the desert at night, it was so quite a mysterious. You felt you wanted to know things, if you know what I mean. Since I've come back and settled in the saddlery again, I still feel it most always. A kind of discontented, funny feeling, if you know what I mean. Well, old girl, what I mean is, when we're spliced up and settled over in Tibblesford, I want to be good for you, and I want to know all about things and that. Well, I'm going to write to Mr. Weeks, who's a gentleman, and who lives in a private house near the church. They say he's a literary society, and if it be so, I'm on for joining it. You'll think I'm balmy, won't you? 'Tisn't that, old dear. Me that has always been content to do my job and draw my screw on Saturday and that. You'll think me funny. When you've lived in the desert, you feel how old it all is. You want something, and you don't know what it is, perhaps just to improve yourself and that. Anyway, there it is, and I shall write to him. See you Sunday. So long, dear. Alf. Alfred Codling to James Weeks, Esquire. Dear Sir, someone tells me you are a literary society in Tibblesford, in which case may I offer my services as a member, and believe me your obedient servant, Alfred Codling. Pendred Castaway, Secretary to James Weeks, Esquire, to Alfred Codling. Dear Sir, in reply to your letter of the 27th inst., I beg to inform you that Mr. James Weeks is abroad. I will communicate the contents of your letter to him. Yours faithfully, Pendred Castaway. Annie Phelps to Alfred Codling. My dear Alf, you are a funny old bean. What is up with you? I spec you are just fed up. You haven't had another touch of fever, have you? I will come and look after you Sunday. You are a silly to talk about improving, considering the money you are getting, and another rise next spring, you say. I expect you got fed up in the desert and that, didn't you? I expect you wanted me sometimes, eh? I shouldn't think the literary society much cop myself. I can lend you some books. Cook is a great reader. She has nearly all Ethel M. Dell's and most of Charles Garvice. She says she will lend you some if you promise to cover in brown paper and not tear the edges. They had a big party here over the weekend. A colonel, a bishop, 2 gentlemen, and some smart women, one very nice, and she gave me 10 bob. We could go to the pictures come Wednesday, if agreeable. Milly is walking out with a fella over at Spindlehurst in the grocery, a bit flash. I don't like him very much. Mrs. Vaughan had one of her attacks on Monday. Lord, she does get on my nerves when she's like that. Well, be good and cheerio. Must now close. Love and kisses till Sunday. Annie. James Weeks, Esquire, Malaga, Spain, to Alfred Codling. Dear Sir, my secretary informs me that you wish to join our literary society in Tibblesford. It is customary to be proposed and seconded by 2 members. Would you kindly send me your qualifications? Yours faithfully, James Weeks. Alfred Codling to Annie Phelps. My dear Annie, please thank Cook for the 2 books which I am keeping wrapped up and will not stain. I read The Eagle's Mate, and I think it's a pretty story. As you know, dear, I am no fist at explaining myself. At the pictures the other night, you were on to me again about getting on and that. 'Tisn't that. It's difficult to explain what I mean. I expect I will always be able to make good money enough. If you haven't been through it, you can't know what it's like. It's something else I want, if you know what I mean. To be honest, I did not like the pictures the other night. I thought they were silly, but I like to have you sitting by me and holding your hand. If I could tell you what I mean, you would know. I have heard from Mr. Weeks about the literary, and I am writing off at once. Steve, our foreman, has got sacked for pinching leather, been going on for years, so must close with love till Sunday. Alf. Alfred Codling to James Weeks, Esquire. Dear Sir, as regards your communication, you ask what are my qualifications. I say I have no qualifications, sir. Nevertheless, I am wishful to join the literary. I will be candid with you, sir. I am not what you might call a literary or educated man at all. I am in the saddlery. I was all through Gallipoli and Egypt, Lieutenant Corporal in the 2nd 15th Mounted Blumshires. It used to come over me like when I was out there alone in the desert. Perhaps, sir, you will understand me when I say it, for I find folks do not understand me about it, not even the girl I walk out with, Annie Phelps, who is as nice a girl a fellow could wish. Perhaps, sir, you have to have been through it, if you know what I mean. When you are alone at night in the desert, it's all so big and quiet. You want to get to know things and all about things, if you know what I mean, sir. So perhaps you will pass me in the literary. Your obedient servant, Alfred Codling. Annie Phelps to Alfred Codling. Dear Alf, you was funny Sunday. I don't know what's up with you. You never used to be that glum, I call it. Is it thinking about this literary sock turning your head, or what? Milly says you come into the kitchen like a boiled owl, you was. Cheer up, old dear, till Sunday week. Annie. James Weeks, Esquire, to Alfred Codling. Dear Sir, allow me to thank you for your charming letter. I feel I understand your latent desires perfectly. I shall be returning to Tibblesford in a week's time, when I hope to make your acquaintance. I feel sure that you will make a desirable member of our literary society. Yours cordially, James Weeks. James Weeks to Samuel Childers. My dear Sam, I received the enclosed letter yesterday, and I hasten to send it on to you. Did you ever read anything more delightful? We must certainly get Alfred Codling into our society. He sounds the kind of person who would make a splendid foil to old Baldwin with his tortuous metaphysics. That is, if we can only get him to talk. Yours ever, J.W. Samuel Childers to James Weeks. My dear chap, you are surely not serious about the ex-corporal? I showed his letter to Fanny. She simply screamed with laughter. But of course you mean it as a joke, proposing him for the literary. Hope to see you on Friday. Yours ever, S.C. Alfred Codling to Annie Phelps. My dear Annie, I was afraid you would begin to think I was balmy. Dear, I always said so, but you mustn't take it like that. It is difficult to tell you about, but you know my feelings to you is as always. Now I have to tell you, dear, that I have seen Mr. Weeks. He is a very nice old gentleman indeed. He is very kind. He says I can go to his house any time and read his books. He has hundreds and hundreds. I have never seen so many books. You have to have a ladder to climb up to some of them. He is very kind. He says he shall propose me for the literary sock, and I can go when I like. He asked me all about myself, and that was very kind and pleasant. He told me all about what books I was to read, and that so I think, dear, I won't be going to the pictures Wednesday, but will meet you by the fire station Sunday as usual. Your loving Alf. Ephraim Baldwin to James Weeks. My dear Weeks, I am afraid I cannot understand your attitude in proposing and getting Childers to second this hobbledehoy called Alfred Codling. I have spoken to him, and I am quite willing to acknowledge that he may be a very good young man in his place. But why join a literary society? Surely we want to raise the intellectual standard of the society, not lower it. He is absolutely ignorant. He knows nothing at all. Our papers and discussions will be Greek to him. If you wanted an extra hand in your stables or a jobbing gardener, well and good, but I must sincerely protest against this abuse of the fundamental purposes of our society. Yours sincerely, Ephraim Baldwin. Fanny Childers to Elspeth Pritchard. Dear old thing, I must tell you about a perfect scream that is happening here. You know the Tibblesford Literary Society that Pa belongs to, and also Jimmy Weeks? Well, it's like this. Dear old Jimmy is always doing something eccentric. The latest thing is he has discovered a mechanic in the leather trade with a soul. I'm sure I ought not to spell it the other way. He is also an ex-soldier and was out in the East. He seems to have been imbued with what they call Eastern Romanticism. Anyway, he wanted to join the society, and old Weeks rushed Pa into seconding him, and they got him through. And now a lot of the others are up in arms about it, especially old Baldwin. You know, we call him permanganate of potash. If you saw him, you'd know why, but I can't tell you. I have been to 2 of the meetings, specially to observe the mechanic with the soul. He really is quite a dear, a thick-set, square-chinned little man with enormous hands, with a heavy silver ring on the 3rd finger of his left, and tattoo marks on his right wrist. He sits there with his hands spread out on his knees, and stares at the members as though he thinks they are a lot of lunatics. The first evening he came, the paper was on the influence of Erasmus on modern theology, and the second evening, the drama of the Restoration. No wonder the poor soul looks bewildered. He never says a word. How is Tiny? I was in town on Thursday and got a duck of a hat. Do come over soon. Crowds of love, Fan. James Weeks to Alfred Codling. My dear Codling, I quite appreciate your difficulty. I would suggest that you read the following books in the order named. You will find them in my library. Jevons's Primer of Logic, Welton's Manual of Logic, Brackenbury's Primer of Psychology, and Professor James's Textbook of Psychology. Do not be discouraged. Sincerely yours, James Weeks. Annie Phelps to Alfred Codling. Dear Alf, I don't think you treat me quite fair. You says you are sweet on me and that, and then you go on in this funny way. 'Tisn't my fault that you got the wind up in Egypt. I don't know what you mean by all this. I wish the old Literary Society was dead and finished. Cook say you probably want a blue pill, you was so glum Sunday. Don't you see all these gents and girls and educated coves are pulling your leg if you don't know what they talking about and all that? You just making a fool of yourself, And then what about me? You don't think of me, and it's making me a fool too. Milly says she wouldn't have no truck with a book louse, so there it is. Annie. Alfred Codling to James Weeks, Esquire. Dear Sir, I am much obliged to you for putting me on them books. It beats me how they work up these things. I'm afeard I'm not scholared enough to keep up the pace with these sayings and that. It's the same with the literary. I listen to the talk, and sometimes I think I've got it, and then no. Sometimes I feels angry with the thing said. I know the speaker's wrong, but I can't say I feel they wrong, but I don't know what to say it. There's some things too big to say, isn't that, sir? I'm much obliged to you, sir, for what you've done. Believe me, I enjoy the literary, though I almost always don't know the talk. I know who are the right ones and who are the wrong ones. If you've been through what I've been through, you would know the same, sir. Believe me, your obedient servant, Alfred Codling. Ephraim Baldwin to Edwin Jope, Secretary to the Tibblesford Literary Society. Dear Jope, for my paper on the 19th Brox, I propose to discuss the influence of Hegelism on modern psychology. Yours ever, Ephraim Baldwin. Edwin Jope to Ephraim Baldwin. Dear Mr. Baldwin, I have issued the notices of your forthcoming paper. The subject, I am sure, will make a great appeal to our members, and I feel convinced that we are in for an illuminating and informative evening. With regard to our little conversation on Wednesday last, I am entirely in agreement with you with regard to the quite inexplicable action of Weeks in introducing the leather mechanic into the society. It appears to me a quite superfluous effrontery to put upon our members. We do not want to lose Weeks, but I feel that he ought to be asked to give some explanation of his conduct. As you remark, it lowers the whole standard of the society. We might as well admit agricultural labourers, burglars, grooms and barmaids, and all the derelicts of the town. I shall sound the opinion privately of other members. With kind regards, yours sincerely, Edwin Jope. Annie Phelps to Alfred Codling. All right, then, you stick to your old literary. I am sending you back your wedding ring, and you go in and out of that place, never thinking of me. Aunt said how it would be, you going off, etc., and getting ideas into your head. What do you care? I don't think you care at all. I expect you meet a lot of these swellheads there, men and women, and you get talking and thinking you someone. All these years you were away, I waited for you faithful. I never had a thought for other fellows, and then you go on like this and treat me in this way. Aunt says she wouldn't put up, and Milly says her book louse is worse than no good, and so I say good-bye, and that's how it is now forever. You have broken my heart, Annie. Annie Phelps to Alfred Codling. I cried all night. I didn't mean quite all I said, you know how I mean, dear Alf. If you was only reasonable, I don't mind you going to the literary if you explain yourself. For Gawd's sake, meet me tonight by the fire station and explain everything. Your broke-hearted Anne. James Weeks to Samuel Childers. My dear Sam, I hope Harrogate is having the desired effect upon you. I was about to say that you have missed few events of any value or interest during your absence, but I feel I must qualify that statement. You have missed a golden moment. The great Baldwin evening has come and gone, and I deplore the fact that you were not there. My sense of gratification, however, is not due to Ephraim himself, but to my unpopular protégé and white elephant, Alfred Codling. I tell you, it was glorious. Ephraim spoke for an hour and a half, the usual thing, a dull réchauffé of Schopenhauer and Hegel, droning forth platitudes and half-baked sophistries. When it was finished, the chairman asked if anyone else wished to speak. To my amazement, the ex-lance corporal rose heavily to his feet. His face was brick red and his eyes glowed with anger. He pointed his big fingers at Ephraim and exclaimed, "Yes, talk, 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 that's all it is. There's nothing in it at all." And he hobbled out of the room. You know he was wounded in the right foot. The position, as you may imagine, was a little trying. I did not feel in the mood to stay and make apologies. I hurried after Codling. I caught up with him at the end of the lane. I said, "Codling, why did you do that?" He could not speak for a long time, and then said, "I'm sorry, sir. It came over me like all of a sudden." We walked on. At the corner by Harvey's mill we met a girl. Her face was wet. There was a fine rain pouring down at the time. They looked at each other, these two, and then she suddenly threw out her arms and buried her face on his chest. I realized that this was no place for me, and hurried on. The next morning I received the enclosed letter. Please return it to me. Ever yours, James. Alfred Codling to James Weeks. Dear Sir, please to erase my name from the literary sock. I feel I have treated you bad about it, but there it is. I apologize to you for treating you bad like this. That is all I regret. You have always been kind and pleasant to me, lending me the books and that. I shall always be grateful to you for what you have done. It came over me sudden like last night, while that chap was spouting about what you call physiology. I never heard tell on the word till you put me on to it. Now they all talk about it. I looked it up in the diction, and it says something about the science of mind, and that chap went on spouting about it. I had a quarrel with my girl. We had never quarrelled before, and I was very down about it. She is the best girl a fellow could wish, and I have always said so. Somehow, last night while he was spouting, it came over me sudden. I thought of the nights I had spent alone in the desert when it was all quite a mysterious and big. I had been through it all, sir. I had seen my pals what was alive 1 minute blown to pieces the next. I had tramped hundreds of miles and gone without food and water. I had seen hell itself, sir. And when you are always with death like that, sir, you are always so much alive. You are alive, and then the next minute you may be dead, and it makes you want to feel in touch like with everything. You can't hate no one when you are like that. You think of the other fella over there who's thinking like you are, p'raps, and he all alone to looking up to the blinking stars, and it comes over you that it's only love that holds us all together, love and nothing else at all. And my heart was breaking thinking of Annie, what I had treated so bad, and what I had been through, and he went on spouting and spouting. What does he know about physiology? You had to have been very near death to find the big things. That's what I found out, and I couldn't tell those literary blokes, and that's why I lost my temper, and so pleased to erase me from the sock. They can't teach me nothing that matters, 'cause I've seen it all, and I can't teach them nothing because they haven't been through it. What I have learnt, sir, is that there's something big in our lives apart from getting on and comforts and good times, and so, sir, I am much obliged to you for all you have done for me, and accept my apology for the way I treat you. Your obedient servant, Alfred Codling. James Weeks to Edwin Jope. Dear Jope, in reply to your letter, I cannot see my way to apologise or even dissociate myself with the views expressed by Mr. Codling at our last meeting. Consequently, I must ask you to accept my resignation. Yours very truly, James Weeks. Samuel Childers to Edwin Jope. Dear Jope, taking into consideration all the circumstances of the case, I must ask you to accept my resignation from the Tibblesford Literary Society. Yours faithfully, S. Childers. Annie Phelps to Alfred Codling. My dear Alf, of course it's all right. I'm all right now, dear Alf. I will try and be a good wife to you. I am clever like you with all your big shouts and that, but I will and be a good wife to you. Aunt Em is going to give us that horse's hair. Our mother says there'll be £25 coming to me when Uncle Steve pegs out, and he has the dropsy all right already. What do you say to April if we can get that cottage of Mrs. Plummer's mother's? See you Sunday. Love from Annie. Kiss, 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 kiss. Ephraim Baldwin to Edwin Jope. Dear Mr. Jope, as no apology has been forthcoming to me from any quarter for that outrageous insult I was subjected to on the occasion of my last paper, I must ask you to accept my resignation. Yours faithfully, Ephraim Baldwin, OBE. Alfred Codling to Annie Phelps. My dear Anne, you will be pleased to hear they made me foreman. This will mean an increase, and so on. I think April will be all right. Mr. Weeks sent me cheque for £50 to start varnishing, but I took it back, and I said no, I could not accept it, having done nothing to earn it, and treating him so bad over that literary sock. But he said yes, and he put it in such a way that I accept after all, so we shall be all right for varnishing at the present. He was very kind, and he says we was to go to him at any time, and I was to go on reading the books. He says I shall find good things in them, but not the literary sock. He says he has left it hisself. I feel I treated him very bad, but I could not stand that feller spouting, and him never having been through it like what I have. That dog of Charlie's killed one of Mrs. Reeves' chickens Monday, so must now close till Sunday, with love from your soon husband. Don't it sound funny? Alf. Edwin Jope to Walter Bunning. Dear Sir, in reply to your letter, I beg to say that the Tibblesford Literary Society is dissolved. Yours faithfully, E. Jope. End of A Man of Letters.